What's up, y'all? I've actually been trying to make this video for months, back when the jerseys was just starting to leak, but I've low-key been a little lazy. It would have been an actual reason for, people to watch my videos, but oh well. That time's over now. And you know what? I would like to do a giveaway or something like that, but I literally have nobody watching these videos, so that's kind of tough to do. But I'm gonna do that thing when people are like, oh, if this gets 1 million subscribers and I'll give y'all hella money. So if I get to let's say like 500 subscribers, then I'll do a jersey giveaway. Give somebody a free jersey, whoever you want, whatever. Or should I do 1,000 or I don't know. Who cares? Anyway, let's get into these City Edition jerseys. Miami. Yeah, these are horrible to me. I mean, I like the concept, I guess, but it just doesn't work. I didn't like them last year when they were black, but to be honest, they may have been better last year. If they were going to change the color, they could have thought about changing around maybe the inspiration of the different logos, like the different Miami logos that they use, like change the letters and put them in a different order, or make it a bigger difference than just black and white. I do think the yellow accent that is supposed to represent like the yellow rope you see when watching the Heat game works better for this white jersey, but this was a lazy take on a jersey that was already criticized for looking awful last year. Minnesota. Okay, this is probably the worst City Edition that Minnesota has had since they did the Nike switch. I get the argument that the City Edition is a time for unique jerseys, but I feel like you can't just do anything and try to argue and be like, oh, it's fine that we just did what we wanted because it's based on something to do with our location. Like, I'm not from Minnesota, so I could be way off here, but if you're from Minnesota and the art scene that this is based off is really important, feel free to correct me. This is one of the worst this year for me, but I will give it points for the front pattern being different in every single jersey, which is something that's a really unique and cool idea, especially for collectors, but it's not different enough to where that makes a big impact on how I judge this one. This one's pretty awful. Toronto. It's funny when you look up the official inspiration for this jersey and it talks about being a nod to diversity and unity, which is cool and all in theory, but we all know that these are the OVO jerseys. There's no need to play with us, NBA. I do like when jerseys have subtleties, and I'll give these some points for me, but if we can't see them too well, what's the point? Apparently it sports North in different languages and has the 6 boroughs printed on the jersey, but for a jersey that's supposedly about unity and that's the point, maybe you should make those parts a little easier to see, in my opinion. Overall though, we know for Toronto we are going to end up with some OVO jerseys for the City Edition, so it is what it is. I can't say these really go for anything other than what they've been doing in the past. If anything, these look kind of worse than some of the ones they've done in the past, so either try something new or just really go for it. Denver. Another jersey that's a fall off from previous years. Unfortunately, this also has some fake inspiration that tries to talk about things they don't actually care about, but we don't even get an inspired jersey design in the process. The jerseys are pretty standard, if not bland, but I do like the side panel design, but other than that, not much stands out to me. I'm looking for something to stand out when I'm looking at a City Edition jersey. Come on now, this could have been a statement. Dallas, another team that has struggled to make good jerseys over the years. I think they need to abandon the wishbone. Unfortunately, the times they abandoned the wishbone, they had some of their worst looking jerseys ever, but if they are bent on including that green in there, the color scheme needs to do more. Like, just adding them to some poorly made City Edition jerseys doesn't really make sense for me. If you're going to put in green as your color scheme, really go for it. Phoenix. Okay, I'm not really a fan of this one, especially considering how great the previous Valley City Editions used to be. This one has significance based upon the indigenous tribes of Arizona, so I can't hate on the reasoning for them choosing the color, but I think they could have incorporated the turquoise with actual colors from their actual color scheme. I'm also not a fan of jerseys that just have like a logo on it, probably residual damage from some of the cheaper looking jerseys from the Adidas era, but I usually need some type of lettering or a nice font on the jersey for me to put it in that top tier, so I'm not really a fan of these. San Antonio. Alright, so people have clamored and clamored and clamored for Fiesta jerseys for years, but I think we have gone too far. I think this is kind of like how Miami went too far with their Vice jerseys because people really like the original, so they just kept redoing them over and over again rather than keep them the same ones in the rotation like Utah's original City Editions that were really popular. I think they are much worse than last year's, and I'm not always a fan of teams completely deviating and going away from their color scheme unless it's for a very unique reason, like when Minnesota did those Prince-inspired jerseys. I hope this is the last year we see these and that they don't try and make like an orange one or a pink one for the Spurs for the next couple of years. Like, the Spurs are supposed to be a boring team. Why are they wearing these bright green jerseys? Like, it doesn't make sense. These turquoise jerseys. Chicago. Yeah, these are a little bland. Chicago's city editions in the past weren't amazing by any means, but they were usually unique and they were trying to represent the city well. Sometimes the city editions will just be like a throwback type of deal where they are just using the team's history as the city's identity, which I get. For a legacy franchise like the Bulls, that makes sense, but they are in a tough spot because their jersey's so iconic, so they don't really want to switch it up too much. I just felt like they could have added another element to improve this jersey, but it is what it is. Houston. When you think I'm a franchise like a Houston Rocket, what's the first jersey that pops into your head? Y'all all know which one I'm talking about. In my honest opinion, the nostalgia for this jersey does not hit the same if you don't include that iconic old school logo. If you're going to try and capitalize on old nostalgia for your city edition, then you really have to pull it off well. The pinstripes get replaced with 3 large stripes that don't even go all the way through for some reason, with these random light blue ends on the lines. The off-center stripes are cool, but I'm honestly not trying to see this color scheme without the original logo. I prefer their classic editions this year, and maybe those should have been their city edition, or at least inspired their city edition jerseys. Orlando. Very standard, not much to say. Worse than some of the years in the past, but a departure from the orange that we've got in the past couple years. Even though I was never really a big hater of the orange, I mean, it's not part of their official scheme, but it makes sense. But before the orange ones, they usually used to have a black and blue based jersey anyway. This is okay, but I can't say it's as inspired as some of the ones in the years past, like the Disney one with the stars and stuff. That's the type of creative stuff I'm trying to see with City Edition, not just regular bland stuff. So this one's Philadelphia. You never know what you're going to get with a Philly City Edition jersey. I always appreciate a jersey that is willing to go beyond just the city name for the lettering on the front, but these don't really do too much for me. Like, they don't do too much at all. I might even go as far to call them lazy. A little lazy maybe, but I can't say that they're offensive. The font they use is nice, but outside of that, I'm not really seeing anything that makes me go wow. Memphis. One thing I really don't like is when they enlist celebrities to contribute to jerseys. It's bad enough when it's just one celebrity, but it's even worse when they have this long list of people who helped and somehow took time out of being rich and famous to design these jerseys, and they don't even end up interesting. They go for this old school Southern rap cover vibe, but it only halfway leans into it with the detailing on the front, and they don't really employ the concept anywhere else. You just throw a bunch of celebs on the list and bam, this is what we get. The diamond and gold coloring is cool, like going back to RIAA certifications, but I mean, it does try to lean into the city idea concept, but it's just a little too bland. Sometimes you really just got to go for it if you're going to do something like that. Like, maybe they could have made the whole jersey gold and platinum and stuff like that, but you know, try again next year. Los Angeles. This one's a little disappointing. In previous years, they had a consistent theme with the lore series, but they abandoned it for this year and ended up with something pretty uninspiring. While they're better than last year's, I'd say, they aren't as good or unique as the ones in years past. I do like the purple accents they use, but overall, abandoning the lore series concept is a loss, in my opinion, and the jerseys suffer because of it. New Orleans. The Pelicans. Another team that has struggled to make quality and creative jerseys. Standard New Orleans Mardi Gras jerseys, not much to say about it. Never any thought put into them, throwing out the same thing basically every year with a few color switch, but at least this year they made them with a purple base, which was good. Similar to the dark blue, so it kind of makes sense color-wise. Like I said, better than usual, but still whatever. We know with New Orleans jerseys, it's just not gonna wow us. Cleveland. I'm a fan of the font they used here. To be honest, this isn't perfect by any means, but I'm feeling like it's missing an element as well. Some of the past ones were better, but this feels like it has more effort than like Chicago's, for example. Maybe add some of the wine coloring, and this one could have been more of a hit than what it's most likely going to be, which is probably forgotten in years to come. Charlotte. Well, these went viral for obvious reasons, if you look at the letters on the front, but I actually like these. While they aren't as elite as some of the past Charlotte City editions, like the 2021, for example, that teal, that kind of mint lining is a great touch, but the gold and bronze lettering doesn't really make sense, and it doesn't really add much to the jersey. But fun fact, the mint is apparently due to the mint itself being in Charlotte, like that mint. Clippers did a good job this year. Unique design, keeps their color scheme, and has a reasoning behind it relating to the city it's from, even though LA doesn't care about the Clippers. That's a winning combo for me. These are Drew League inspired jerseys. I mean, they're solid, could probably do a little more, but it's hard to call them bad. I'd pick other years over this one, but I'd say I'm a fan of these. Indiana. All right, I like these. They aren't as good as some of the previous city editions for Indiana, but I appreciate them trying to go for unique designs while staying true to their team's history. Like, you're always going to know it's the Pacer jersey. The gold accent may not work for everybody, but there's a unique reasoning behind it related to the structure of the field house. So while I think these might not be everybody's cup of tea, I think they did a good job. Milwaukee. I really like these. Like I said, I like jerseys that are a nice twist, but also keeps true to the official color palette. And guess what? Blue is technically part of Milwaukee's color scheme. Everybody doesn't know that. I think the chevron side paneling is great, and it's hard to find anything bad about this jersey. I will say this is kind of similar to the Toronto jersey, where the official inspiration talks about the vague connection to Bronzeville. Once again, I feel like they need to stop playing us and stop trying to get brownie points, even though these connections aren't very clear in the jersey itself. Again, if anybody is from the area, feel free to correct me, but I just feel like the NBA, they just kind of running out of stuff to say, and they trying to seem better than they are. Golden State. Very controversial jerseys, I'm sure. I appreciate them going for something different. We've never really seen an NBA jersey like this. Where I think it goes wrong is, what's the point of making a design so unique if the majority of it is going to be covered when the players tuck in their jersey? The inspiration actually makes sense. It's actually about uplifting women. It was designed by a woman based on a Bay Area landmark. Some of these other teams should honestly take notes in that department, but I do wish they would have chosen like maybe a blue instead of the gold, or really yellow that they went with. Portland. Okay, I can get behind this. This is basically just the typical Portland jersey, but instead of the red lettering, they've added a color that's supposed to signify the color of the carpet for the airport. That's a unique touch that does call back to a unique aspect of their city, and I'm sure the people actually from there will recognize it, so I can get behind it. Even if teal isn't part of their actual color scheme, I think this one ended up working out great. OKC. Okay, these are great. It uses a black base and uses variations of the existing color scheme to make a great jersey. It's exactly how a city edition should be. It also does a great job using the side paneling for a unique shade that's supposed to represent soil and OKC workers. OKC city editions can be hit or miss, but they never go far enough to be like offensive. And I would say this is one of the better jerseys in their history, and one of the best this year, to be honest. So Washington's cherry blossom jerseys might be on that line of being a little too different, but I think this one was done pretty well. The color scheme is close enough to their usual that it doesn't really distract me. It's a cool concept, which I think the best city edition jerseys usually follow. The cherry blossoms are also a smooth way to kind of market their up and coming star. Well, I wouldn't call him necessarily a star, but he has a lot of outside market appeal in Rui Hachimura, and really highlight his culture while also being relevant to the area that the team plays in. So I thought this one did a really good job. Boston. The Celtics usually have some pretty bad and bland city editions, but this might be their best yet. The Celtics jerseys have been joked about as being jalapeno green since the Nike takeover, with the emphasis on brighter colors because they want them to pop on TV. So this city edition is a good return to like the darker green jerseys from the 2000s. The type font is okay, but this is kind of up for me because of how good the color is with the nice gold accents, and the black side panel really works well here. Sacramento. I actually really like these. These might be some of the best ones. The gray color with the purple really pop. The lettering for Sacramento looks good. The side panel accents are good. It's supposed to represent architecture, but who cares? It just looks tight. The words above the tag say something about making sure you keep the team in Sacramento, which wasn't always a sure thing, because I remember about a decade ago, before the Maloof sold the team, they were talking about moving it to Virginia, of all places, which would be kind of crazy. I mean, my family's from Virginia, but having a team there just kind of seems out of place since the Kings have been in Sacramento so long. Regardless though, the jersey is phenomenal. Probably one of the best city editions they had, in my opinion. Brooklyn. The Basquiat jerseys return, and they've always kind of had a mixed reaction, but I always loved them. I loved them when it was the black ones, and I love these too. even though they kind of go against the spirit of Basquiat himself, but that's another discussion for another day. The white base of the jersey makes sense. You know, we're talking about art, so we want to talk about a canvas, and if you're inspired by an artist, that totally makes sense. And I might have liked the black ones a tiny bit better, but these ones make sense from kind of a creative perspective. The side paneling is elite. These jerseys to me were always cool and unique while being thematically appropriate for a city edition, so not much bad to say about these. Detroit. Looking at the story of this one was interesting, especially because it said the official color was green, even though when I first saw it, my mind immediately went to like a gray or a chrome. So the story of this one is about St. Cecilia, a place where Detroit Hoopers go for pickup. But if you want to play that chrome piston angle that they've done in years past, I think that would have worked for me too. This is one where I feel like color scheme works fine, even though it isn't necessarily a color that's part of their official color scheme. And I think the logo is amazing and the blue accents are perfect and they really pop, and this one looks good to me. Utah doesn't have a jersey branded as City Edition this year, which is odd, but I'm gonna go and talk about their City Edition for next year since that was revealed early, and to be honest, it's amazing. They took a classic jersey that already represented the city well, they modernized it, and they gave it some more flair, some more pop, some more swag, you know? So I don't see how you can really hate these. It's just a high quality rework. I mean, if they would have put as much effort into their rebrand as they did into this, then they wouldn't have such awful jerseys this year. But who am I? Who am I to judge? Atlanta. Yeah, these jerseys are crazy. They might be the best in this year's batch. The font is amazing, very similar to the TV show, so they must be the official signage for the city and whatnot. But I don't want to be wrong. I'm not going to speak like I know exactly what I'm talking about, but I would assume so. The peach color is a great touch, and again, this is where they did a similar enough color scheme to where it doesn't stick out. It gives homage to what the city is known for while still being an amazing design. All right, New Yorks are sleek. This is a collaboration with Kith, and they usually gonna come out with some hard stuff, whether it's a jersey or not. So them collabing with the Knicks makes total sense, especially because it's a New York-based brand. If you look at it, the first thought that comes to your mind is those Knicks teams from the late 90s and the early 2000s. Making it black was a nice touch, and this is one of the better Knicks City editions with Nike Switch for sure. These are nice. Like, if I would just be, I'm not even a Knicks fan like that, but I would wear this jersey just because it looks good. So to be honest, overall, I'm pretty disappointed in this year's crop of City Edition jerseys. City Editions have so much potential and they could really go for it and do something unique, and I'm glad that we're able to get new jerseys every year, but some of these teams just don't understand the concept behind representing your city with a jersey. And I never really understood why people are always against fun new alternates that you can collect and switch out and get a new one every year. I mean, I know paying for a jersey every year is tough and it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense compared to how things were in the past, but for collectors it's probably a lot of fun. And complaining about the new alternates when the old alternates were way worse than City Editions, it just doesn't make sense. Y'all got to keep that same energy. People keep pining for old jerseys because of nostalgia, but at least with City Editions, if the jersey is bad, you know, they probably get a new one next year. And I think we can appreciate that some of the bad City Edition jerseys are better than some of the bad regular alternate jerseys from previous companies that used to run the NBA jerseys. Some of those were god awful. So once again, go ahead, watch the video, subscribe, like, do whatever, because I will just start giving stuff away if I have to. All right, peace.